This is what Division I coaches look for in a player. So today we're going to be talking about college golf recruiting and player development with Coach Tom Porten. So if you're interested in getting a college golf scholarship, or you're a parent with a junior that wants the same goal, you're going to want to listen to this. So my name is Salvador Rocha. I'm currently a teaching professional at Eisman Golf Academy. I'm also a PGA associate. I played full-time professional golf for about 4 years, and I also played Division I golf at Northern Illinois under Coach Thomas Porten. I was the team captain and also an all-conference player during my last season. So today we have the pleasure of having Coach Tom here. He has over 30 years of experience in Division I programs. So we'll leave the floor to Coach Tom to give us a quick intro about him. So, Coach, thank you very much for your time today. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Sal. I appreciate you having me on. So what you're basically saying is I'm old.
Basically.
30 years is a long time, but my career started right out of college at Cleveland State University. I played my last 2 years after graduating from a junior college in Ohio. And then after playing 2 years at Cleveland State, I kind of fell into the job. The coach that I played for was an older gentleman. He wasn't a golfer. He was a business professor, kind of one of those part-time guys that just drove us and treated us really well. And his name was Joe Cole. Really had a significant influence in my life because he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He said, "You should be coaching this team." And I said, "Coach Cole, I just finished playing for you." And he goes, "The program is yours." And so for literally $250 in 1992, I took the program over as a part-time coach and a seasonal golf professional. And over the next 7 to 10 years, realized that's what I wanted to do for most of my life was coach players, recruit them, and hopefully develop them into better golfers and better people. So I continued to do that for 15 years at Cleveland State, with brief stops at Akron and Kent State, and then the last 10, which you were a part of, Sal, at Northern Illinois outside of Chicago. So it was for the most part, never felt like work. Enjoyed the relationships and the grind, and then finally in 2019, it was time to say, I've done enough of it. Let's go do something else. So since then, I've been back in the golf business as a teaching professional, and I'm currently up here in Fargo, North Dakota, where I had worked for the Parks and Recreation Department as their director of instruction for the 5 facilities that they operate.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember back to your point about how it never felt like work. I remember you were always an early riser. I remember your text at four in the morning, 5 in the morning about like, hey Sal, you need to try this drill. I always really admire how passionate you were about making the whole team improve. 24/7, I could tell that you were thinking about how can I get my guys, playing their best. So that's really, I think, where my huge respect to you, like as a coach and as a person, really started, because I just saw how insanely dedicated you were to your team, to your work. Now, as you call it, your passion of teaching.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. You're always trying to, whether you're in an individual environment as in private instruction, or you're just trying to share your passion for the game and for what you see in that person, what they're capable of, sometimes what they need to be reminded to do, but it's all from a place of love, and that's that's really what it was for me, a labor of love, and I don't really miss it in that way. because the days were sometimes really long, and the older you get, the harder it is to sustain that kind of energy. But I truly had great experience at every place that I was.
For sure, and I'm sure some college athletes, some student athletes are going to be a little more coachable, some a little less coachable. So you also have to deal with the ins and outs of that. I'm sure it took a lot of your energy. So getting a little bit into the topic of getting recruited by a Division I program, because I know you did a ton of recruiting. That's
Sure.
how we met in a tournament. Can you talk to me a little bit about kind of what were the things that you were looking whether it's like you were looking at a specific recruit or someone reached out? What was kind of like your checklist of, okay, this kid has this that he might be a good fit for a program?
Yeah, I think college recruiting and all the schools that I were at were Division I programs, but for the most part, with the exception of Kent State, which was labeled a mid-major, but they were one of the top 50 programs of the 300 in the country. So they operated as a power school. Recruiting is subjective to the coach, the school that he's coaching at or for. But I think universally, you're looking for talent. And talent can manifest itself in ways, your obvious ways. Boy, this young man or woman shoots really good scores, so it can show itself in that regard. And boy, this person has won 4 times, in a junior summer season, and so that competitiveness, that desire to win, and the scores that reflect that are the obvious ones. The ones that are, as a mid-major coach, you've got to really outwork, uh, you know, uh, Alan Bratton at Oklahoma State recruits very differently than
Mm-hmm.
I did at Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
And we're really going after different types of players. He's going after the number 1 through probably 50 ranked player on whatever junior ranking you look at. And I might be looking at someone 200 to 1,000. And so those are the things that uh, you don't see the scores as much, but you're looking for. I always looked for athletes first, and if I didn't see it in the body, the balance, the speed, or whatever I was looking for there, I looked at it from a passion, an organization, a discipline. Are they organized when they practice and prepare? Do they have, when the weather strikes and they get a sudden shower, are they looking for 2 extra gloves that they forgot in their car, or do they have it all lined up? Have they prepared in a way that shows a maturity and an organizational skill that might overcome their inability athletically, because maybe they're still just a late bloomer and
Mm-hmm.
they're not physically as gifted as 18 as they will be at 21 and 22, when you really need them to win you championships. You were kind of like that. You hadn't completely developed physically, but you had an incredible commitment to your process, uh, and you had great hands. I saw that, whether you were trying to get the ball up and in from a bunker, or in your practice routines as you were getting ready to try to 2 putt from 70 feet because you hit a poor iron shot into a par three.
That was a story.
So yeah, it kind of goes in a lot of different directions, but that's kind of the at least the starting points that you're looking for. They have to have physical talent or incredible mental skills to overcome uh, what they lack initially, and then they've got to have some kind of a track record. You don't see too many diamonds brought into major programs, but that happens a lot more often at the mid-major level, and certainly at your Division II, Division III, and junior college as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So to those points, let's say someone like who's a highly ranked junior player, but they might have some mental stuff, maybe too emotional, maybe their attitude just doesn't hit home with you. So as a former D1 coach, what would you say are some of like the red flags that college coaches or yourself kind of saw?
Well, I think the first red flag comes from where is the passion or the desire coming from? Is it from the player? If they're angry at themselves, that can be a positive thing, and they maybe have an emotional outburst because they care so much, and their their maturity hasn't caught up to them yet. They're still young in that. That's not necessarily a negative, but if they're looking over their shoulder and looking for help, either from their golf instructor or coach, or they're there because their parents have put them there, and uh, that phrase, helicopter parents, you're going to see that pretty early on in the recruiting process, um, and kind of coupled with that would be um, an open-mindedness to coaching and to when you get a chance to get in front of them. There's obviously limits on when you can talk to them, and I think they probably even changed since I retired, but if you can have the conversation and you're learning about, well, it seems to be more about them than about the team that you want them to join and be a part of, or you don't see them interacting very much with their teammates if they're playing a high school event. Uh, those are some red flags that tend to jump out. Are they coachable? Um, are they personable enough to be able to fit into a dynamic of other good players in a program that they think they're the best player, but they may not walk into that school as the best player? And can they handle that adversity?
For sure, great points. So now, as a student athlete, what would you say are some of the commonalities that you saw like your best student athletes have versus the worst or the not so good ones have?
Yeah, so the best traits are there's a maturity and an organization to their life. They understand the environment that they're in with. If you're a Division I student athlete, your work week is when you combine school and your practice hours, and then the expectation of doing more. It's 50 or 60 hours. So the uh, the understanding that this is part of why you're here. You're here for a lot of reasons, but you're definitely here to learn to work. So that work ethic, the discipline that goes with that, the understanding of the situation that they're in as a young person, that it's a privilege and not a right to be a Division I student athlete in any sport. So if they're able to sit in that and feel good about it, then they're coachable, and then you can bring out the things that you see in them that maybe they don't see initially, but then you're doing you're always recruiting even when you have them. You're selling them on what they can be as a person and as a high performance college golfer. So uh, that's the good side of it. Um, the negative side is they're not able to listen or have the mindset, the open mindedness to listen to whether it's a team concept or a role that you want them to play that they may not like, and so that's an initial thing. And then when there's too much ego, things can get when it becomes more about them than the team. Uh, until they change college golf, which I think it's in a great place, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's ever been more popular or more visible to the world. with the Golf Channel tournaments and stuff. So it's a great time for kids to come into college golf and be successful. But it's still a team game, and you're sending your best 5 players from your school and counting the low 4 scores if it's a traditional stroke play event. And so they have to understand that that's the role they're playing. They're one of 5 in a team, and if they can't grasp team, then it's hard to build that trust that between the coach and the player to get the best out of them.
For sure. So to that point about the best student athletes, you were around excellent, like now top 20, top 30 players in the world. You were the tournament director for the 2017 national championship. Is that right?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough at Northern Illinois with strong support of the lead donor, Jerry Rich, who built his own golf course, Rich Harvest Farms, to sort of partner with my relationship with the NCAA over the years to kind of marry the two and bring the men and women's championships to Northern Illinois and Rich Harvest. So it was we got to do a lot of cool things in the 10 years I was there, from working the Ryder Cup in 2012 at Medina during the fall season, which I think to this day, some of the guys that played for me still text me like, man, what an experience that was to be inside the ropes. And, if you're a U.S. fan, we lost a big lead on the last day. But the experience at Northern, we had the Palmer Cup, and so I got to, spend time around John Rahm and other top players, and we had the Western Am, which is still the oldest amateur event in the United States, and I picked Scotty Scheffler up at the airport and Aaron Wise, and you build those relationships, and they're just young kids either going into college, or Aaron had won the Pacific Coast Amateur that week before, and his clubs were lost in O'Hare, and so it was we loaned him a set of clubs until they came in, and he was forever grateful for the opportunity to the work we did to get him ready for that event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember we saw, even outside of the NCAA championship, we saw John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler. I think we played against UCLA. I think we saw Morikawa. We saw Cameron Young. I remember having still some snapshots of the leaderboard, and then it's Salvador Rocha T25 with the finish of a lifetime, and it's Cameron Young minus 24 first place.
That was the Hackler in Myrtle Beach. That was a really Zalatoris and Young were both in that field. One of the coolest things for me was, before Bryson Dechambeau was, who he is now. He was just a college student athlete at SMU, and he was in the field at the Erin Hills event that you were a part of, and he came over after we played a really good round. We got off to a rough start, and then the second round of the 3-day event, I think we were the third low score, and I had never met him, and I think I was watching Ju Young Lee on the range hit a million golf balls, and I was sitting on the bench, and he slid over next to me. He goes, "Nice round, coach." And I looked over and I said, "Well, thanks, Bryson." And he knew as much about our round as I think I did. And so you knew he was just this big student of golf, and his passion for just learning things was very evident back then. And and a very approachable guy. And then I saw him later at the NCAA's, and we had a laugh. He goes, "You didn't play good enough for us to get there."
Yeah.
Said, "No, we didn't. We did not make the cut." So
yeah, he's a good guy. And like, let's say, like during tournaments whether we were playing with them or just had a chance to look at these like now top of the world players, what are some differences that you saw between like an average college player, Division One, but still like very good level, versus these like elite players?
Yeah, I mean, one of the advantages of being at Northern was being able to develop a relationship with, I think he's one of the, if not the best, one of the best coaches in the country, Mike Small. And I borrowed a lot of things and tried to apply them to our program at Northern. And the one of the traits that they had was their externals were always supremely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't tell whether they were 5 under, 10 under, 15 under, or 20 over, and they were very rarely 20 over. And talking to Coach Small about it, I said, so why do you place such an emphasis on it? And he said, well, I don't want to give a competitive advantage to the other teams we're playing against. And so he never had a problem with a player hitting a bad shot and showing, disdain for that shot. But as soon as their hand was on the bag to pick up and go to the next shot, their chest was up, their eyes were up, and they were walking very tall and proud. And they were getting rid of whatever was bad that happened, or even something good that's in the past. And Mike used to walk around with the phrase, "I have no future, I have no past. I can only hope to make the moment last." And so he always wanted his players and demanded that they live in the present moment. And that's a hard thing for players to do consistently. But I think it's one of the reasons they've been so consistent in winning their conference and always getting to the finals, because they live it every day. And that's an area that I tried to, but maybe couldn't get enough of a buy-in to develop that culture as a team. The players didn't take as much value in that as they should have, because they're all like that. They all have command of the moment they're in. They understand it. They embrace it. Um, there's very little fear in what they do. They understand that they're going to hit good shots and hit bad shots, and they embrace the process that allows them to hit more good than bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think to that point, definitely it makes a lot more sense to me now versus when you said it back in college. I remember you said it was like the warrior mentality or the warrior mantra or something.
Yeah, they had T-shirts back in the day when they first started winning a lot of, back in the when they had Luke Guthrie and then Thomas Peters, and then on and on through your era with Nick Hardy and
Dylan Meyer.
Yeah, and Dylan Meyer, right? They just, and Dylan Meyer, what is he, 5'5" or 6 and 130 pounds, and and he looked like a lion when he was out there because of the way he carried himself. And that's something that not all coaches are able to bring out of their players, but it's probably the strength of that program. Sure, they have very talented players, but everybody does. How do you get them to play well when they need to play well for their team, and do it consistently, tournament to tournament, fall to spring, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's something that it sounds so simple, easier said than done for sure, but staying in the present, treating every shot, not even every hole, as its own separate, event.
Yeah.
I even heard Scotty Scheffler kind of mentioning this. I think it was back at the Masters or sometime where he was struggling, and he said like, I like pretending after a bad hole, just imagining that I had a great hole as I walk to the next hole. And then just to get into that mentality, because we've all had like great shots and then had bad shots after, and we've all had terrible holes, terrible shots, and then hit great shots after. But
Right.
if we let it get to us and we're like thinking about the past too much, or maybe we're playing well, or we're too anxious about the future, we're not where it matters, which is in the present. And personally, as a competitive golfer, I feel that my best rounds were when I was just in the present. My lowest round ever in a tournament, 64, it was last year, I think. I was just literally shot by shot, shot by shot. Kind of lost count how many I was under. And I
Yeah.
was just, the next shot, what's the next shot, what's the next shot, what's the next shot? Oh, 64, nice, I'll take it.
No, that's right. And it's the combination of the process, and then when you do something good or bad, the acceptance of how you have to place it in its context. It's golf's so unique in as a sport where the 305-yard drive counts equal to the two-foot putt that's almost a gimme. They both have the same value, and if you're looking at it that way, and you're playing shot to shot, process to process, except Coach Cunningham at Eastern Michigan, you just call it rinse and repeat. You just that's all you're doing is rinsing the last shot you hit, and then repeating it, the process again and again and again. And if you can do that over the course of an 18-hole round, or in the format that's still predominant for Division One is 54-hole tournaments, then you're gonna have a player that's pretty happy with his outcome at the end. And so the best players seem to have an understanding of that at an earlier age. They have a competitiveness that is just a step above, like on the volume dial, it's a little louder than others, and sometimes that reveals itself in the recruiting process, and sometimes programs build that kind of confidence and desire to want more. That's the culture that was in place for a long time at Kent State. They just worked harder, fought tooth and nail in qualifying just to get to the tournament. Back in the days when qualifying was a really big part of the college environment. It's not so much anymore, but yeah, those are things that are traits of the very best.
Awesome. So let's switch gears to a little bit more current and more like player development. As a director of instruction, you're very passionate about working with juniors, helping them develop. You've had a great success recently. You had a player win the state amateur, right?
Yeah, Nate DeZiel, he's now turned professional. But he had a very nice summer and back-to-back weeks. He won the Minnesota State Amateur, which got him into this year's U.S. Amateur at Hazeltine. And then the very next week, the Upper Midwest has a ton of match play events, and he won the 100th version or Birchmont tournament up in Bemidji.
Nice.
And so I think he was like a combined some 28 or 30 under par for the 6 matches that he won in the stroke play qualifying. So
not bad.
Yeah, sometimes you get on a run and you are able to stay in that bubble for a long period of time, and that's fun to watch.
Yeah, I remember even last year, I think where I went to see you down in Florida, where I was struggling a little bit with my game when I was still playing professionally.
Yeah.
And you were so helpful to me because you kept things simple. You're a big proponent of like the feet, how the feet work. Club face. I've always had this little hook. You got me hitting the fade that I wanted in literally like 20 minutes. So it was a big help. And obviously being out on the golf course, kind of where it really counts. Everything, it's no matter the amount of practice that you do on the range, on the short game, you got to go out on the course and make it work there. So what would be your advice to like parents and like junior golfers who are trying to get to maybe that Division One level or just that college, whether it's Division 1, 2, or 3? What's your advice to those golfers to develop their games?
Yeah, I think it starts with it's never too early to start the process of exploration or discovery. I want to play college golf. Okay, do you want to play major college golf? Do you think you're good enough for that? See, you're exploring as the player where you might fit in, and that might be being very aggressive online in looking at places and trying to discover what part of the country you want to be in, where your skill level matches up to other players that are already in those programs, and then you'll find maybe where at least you should start that process. And then for me as a college coach, it's a lot about not just the school golf program that you want to play for, or the coach that you want to play for. You have to like the school and the city, the environment that you're in. Because if you're just going there for golf, you're spending a lot more of your time on that campus, around that community, and it has to be a matchup that the family, if they're very involved in the decision with the parent, with the child,
Mm-hmm.
then that's all got to be lined up. And if you're starting early as a 11, 12, 13-year-old, at least maybe going to a college tournament and seeing what the kids are like, that's a great place to start. And then as you get into your high school years, you're it's never too early to be your own best marketer. You're sending letters out, emails out to coaches, seeing if there is an interest. And then you're going to get some feedback. If you get zero feedback, well,
That's
that
feedback.
program isn't interested in you.
Yeah.
So you keep trying till you catch some feedback from a coach or a school, and then working within the recruiting parameters, you start to build some type of relationship with that school and that coach, and then that's the sort of the journey side of it. The technical or skill side of it, if whatever community you're in, you should be looking for a coach that you can build a relationship with. It's not a lesson every month that's going to get you to where you want to go, especially if you're a junior player shooting in the low 80s, and the expectation of the school that you want to go to, those players are averaging 71 or 72. You've got some work to do. So identifying a coach that has either had some success or is very invested in the process. Maybe they played college golf like you, and now you're channeling that experience and your experience as a professional, and you want to help others make that journey like you did. Kind of finding that connection with the right person is a great place to start. There are a lot of recruiting services out there that can help you on the recruitment side of it, but I think that's more when you've already gotten to a point where you've got a resume that you can sort of subcontract out to, an NCSA, or pick your alphabet recruiting service that's going to go sell you to whatever school that you want, that's on your list. The skill part is, it should always start comprehensively with not just your golf swing, but what am I going to do to my body to make it fitter, stronger, etc. And then get to work, develop a program with your coach. And obviously technology is a big part of it now. You want to have things that are measurable, whether it's using TrackMan as your base, or some other way to measure your progress. So you can be getting the right feedback of, boy, I am getting stronger. My speed's gone up. My scores have gone down. As they say, why guess when you can measure?
Yeah, great points. I love that you use the words, relationship and invested, because even during my early professional years, I had a great coach, Chase Cooper, who still consider my coach, but I definitely was a little curious with other coaches, whether it was social media, or I saw I was working with another player. So I definitely tried maybe a little too many coaches while I was still working with my main coach, which I don't regret per se, but I definitely would encourage, junior professionals and college students to stick with a coach, like you said, who you can build a relationship with. It's not even just like a once a month kind of thing, where you have like constant communication, constant contact, and where you can really form that relationship, have him or her invested in you, because they're not only going to coach you well, they're gonna mentor you. It's not only about the swing,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, that's a great point. And there's a reason, the President's Cup just finished. I think Colin Morikawa went 4-1 or something, had another great, uh, season. And he went back to his coach, longtime coach, Rick Sessinghaus, for a reason, because he not only technically did he understand Colin maybe better than someone else that he had replaced him with, but he worked with him in developing his DNA as a golfer, and Morikawa doesn't want to see the ball go left, um, even though there are shots that you do have to hit a little right to left. He wants to see that ball go, and Rick
Says
was
Nels.
clearly the best person for him to get him back to his foundation.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he is as a player, and so if you're building that identity with a coach, um, the grass isn't always greener in other areas. Sometimes it is, and it's no harm to experiment. But if you're having success and you're doing well, maybe you just need to have a hard conversation with your coach about, okay, I want to do more. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's do more.
Exactly.
And not just go, well, I'm going to go see somebody else because he's different.
Yeah, as golfers, I feel like we're always, no matter the level that we're at, we're always looking for that one coach that's going to tell us that one thing that's going to revolutionize
Yeah,
our golf swing and our golf game.
sure.
And yeah, you're shaking your head because now you know that we all know that that doesn't exist. But for whatever reason,
But
we're
it does not
always looking.
exist. No,
We're
there
always
is no
looking for
perfect.
that. So for parents, what would your advice be if they have a kid, no matter the age, that's like they see potential, or they're trying to push their kid to be potential recruit? What would your advice be? Because I know it's very easy to like overstep and then you end up driving your kid away from golf. So what's your advice to parents if they have a kid that's in that arena?
Yeah, it's being a parent of three, a son and two daughters, walking that line of nurturing their passion or desire to want to get better at something. So you want to support their interest until it either becomes their interest and they've sort of owned that, and that interest becomes a passion. That passion becomes something that, hey, I want to do this beyond just recreationally. Uh, if you can do that early on, letting them enjoy the game, failing at it, because there's way more failure than success.
Mm-hmm.
And then the investment comes in that. Um, I think in the best case scenario, you're letting the child be who they are playing other sports. If they play baseball at 11, don't cut them off at 12 or 13. Let them take it till they come to you and go, boy, I think I want to maybe replace my baseball practice with some additional golf. Well, now you have the player or the recruit already starting to take ownership of that process of getting better. And then you're, as a parent, you're in the right place, and you keep nurturing and feeding that passion for getting better, becoming recruitable, etc. And so those are some things that uh, are, I think, central to it being a successful outcome for both the parent and the child. That it's a win-win because they're not forcing them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They force them, then that player isn't invested, doesn't own it, doesn't have the passion, and all the science is they're just not going to get very good, because they don't have the intention or the purpose that's required to do what the parent wants them to do. So allow them to be a kid, nurture their interest and passion till it becomes singular on that sport, and then uh, communicate. It's a constant set of communication between the parent and the kids on how big, because things change, right? They may start out as a D3 recruit, the shooting 77 or 78, and because of the nurturing and the coaching, all of a sudden they're shooting 68 and 70, and you have to take a right turn or a left turn toward a bigger a net to cast for where this player might want to go, and that's gonna there's more investment, or there's more time that needs to be spent going on trips to schools. And that would be, I think, the last thing is it's the first opportunity for a young adult that's going from 16 to 17 to 18 to make their first major decision. Where am I going to go to school? What city am I going to live in, or community am I going to live in for 4 or 5 years apart from my family? And that's going to take some, mom, dad, what was your experience like when you went to college, if you did?
Mm-hmm.
And that dialogue opens up a whole bunch of great conversations between parents and their kids that can help them make the right decision. If you just sort of cast it off on the kid and go, well, you figure it out, they may make a decision, and then 6 months later they're transferring to another school because they didn't go through the checklist with their family.
Mm-hmm. I think communication, like you said, having a conversation about it is probably in the best interest of both.
For sure.
Yeah. Awesome, Coach. Well, thank you so much. I know we could talk about endless things golf, because your brain is full of information and experience. But just want to say thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate all the valuable insights you shared with us today. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Sal. I appreciate it. And, good luck with both academies. And I'm sure big things are in your future.
So that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you want more content like this. We got some pretty good interviews with some top coaches from around the country. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on the next one.